transitioning into our time of a bit of fun and joy at this time of year. I must tell you that even though I appreciate fun and humor, I'm not necessarily a playful person. So I hope you'll appreciate that what this is for me to put this on this morning. But as I said, if you read in my newsletter, that this time of year is sometimes it's a mixed bag of joy and hope, and sometimes sorrow, and not always a great time for everybody. But today I do want to hold up and lift up the joy and the playfulness of the holiday. I mentioned in my newsletter article that in December of 2020, I was planning on a trip up north to see family, including my brother and my daughters. And I had the car all packed up and ready to go, all the gifts wrapped, and I received a text that I had been exposed to COVID. Well, there was no, I wasn't old enough. If there was vaccinations at that time, I wasn't old enough to have one. So I couldn't go away from my home and infect others. So I had to give up all those joyous plans, right? And I was really disappointed and struggling with feelings of frustration and a little scared too because I hadn't been vaccinated. So as I stewed about my situation, an iconic song came to mind from The Sound of Music, especially the refrain. When the dog bites, when the bee stings, when I'm feeling sad, I simply remember my favorite things, then I don't feel so bad. Now, in that moment of those lyrics playing in my head, that brought a smile, and then I kind of was recalling, had dim memories of seeing The Sound of Music, probably in the theater. And there were two times in that movie that stood out to me. One was, do you remember when, if you saw it or you know the story, the Von Trapps who lived in Austria were being pursued by Nazis, and they had gone to the Abbey to search because Maria, the heroine, she was a nun associated with that Abbey, but she was the governess for the Von Trapp family. Anyway, they went to the Abbey to search, and they couldn't find anybody because the Von Trapps were hidden in a crypt. So the Nazis come and they jump in their cars to take off to pursue in their search, and they can't start their cars. And the Mother Superior is looking on, and she's puzzled by this, and two nuns walk up behind her and they say, "Reverend Mother, we have sinned." And she turns around, she says, "What do you mean? What sins, my child?" And they didn't say a word, but reached into their habits and pulled out distributor caps and spark plug wires. I was so impressed by that, even I think I was in middle school, maybe 6th or 7th grade. But I remember being so impressed by that, and I think my social justice heart was awakened in that moment. Just took a while to come around. But anyway, the other story, the other piece that I remember so well is that time when the Von Trapp kids all pile into Maria's bed because there's a thunderstorm, and she soothes them with the song, "A Few of My Favorite Things." It was so warm and cozy, and so I think that in a sense it was maybe my subconscious, my psyche bringing that back up. I spent that Christmas 2020 at home without seeing my daughters or my brother, but it wasn't so bad after all, because the best gift I received that year was not actually getting COVID. I don't think. I didn't take a test at the time, but I never got symptoms. Well, the next year, there were vaccinations, but if you remember in 2021, we were all just plunged in the middle of this big pandemic, right? And sheltering in place, couldn't go anywhere. And I'm trying to figure out how to approach these holidays with any measure of joy and hope for the congregation I was serving. And it hit me, oh, that song. So as I invited you, I invited them to tell me of their favorite times, their favorite holiday memories. And they didn't necessarily need to be tied to Christmas. There's Hanukkah and winter solstice. But they responded, and I turned their lyrics, as I did yours today, a little bit clumsily. I'm not a songwriter, and thankfully Ron is going to sing them, and so he'll make them good. I'm sure. If nothing else, you'll enjoy hearing his voice, right? So we're here now, December 2022. I don't know, are we post-pandemic? Is the pandemic over? I wouldn't put money on it. But we also have other things to worry about, right? Like this war in Ukraine and our economy and what's going to happen there, and global warming and these superstorms. So within those bigger threats are the fact that you as a congregation are looking at me instead of Harris right now, and you're going through this transitional time, and it's a time of uncertainty. And even though, nothing terrible has happened, it still is like there, it's in the background. So we might as well go ahead and name it. That's why I was wanting to bring a little holiday fun today. Now, I had solicited your responses in the newsletter and the blast. The newsletter came out very late. So your response was not robust, but it was enough. It's enough. And so I thank you for all those who contributed. And I hope that you will enjoy the lyrical reflection in a transformed, a few of my favorite things. You can follow along. I've put the altered lyrics in the order of service with those who submitted them. And I invite you all, Ron is going to sing them for us, and I invite you all to join in with the refrain, as we learned earlier. Now, before we begin our playful rendition, I want to share with you a couple of special anecdotes that I received. The first one I'll share now, the other one I'll share at the end after the song. But I got a story from Cindy Mullaney that I actually had my own experience with, and she tells me that Jay Leno tells the same story. So that is that we lived in places, Cindy and Jay Leno grew up in places that grew up in these places, and I lived in these places when my own children were young, that in the North, Midwest, and the Northeast, where the evergreen trees flourish. So Cindy and Jay Leno's parents would go out and bring home a live Christmas tree, that is with roots intact, and they would decorate that, and then they'd plant them after the holidays. Well, both Jay and Cindy and Jay, and of course Jay Leno on TV, shared how it made them feel really wonderful to see these trees flourish and grow tall on their homesteads. Even though they don't still live there, they can go by and see them. But Cindy also shared that her father would go into the woods along with her brother and extract a tree themselves, sometimes from frozen ground. And after the holidays, it was even harder to dig a hole big enough to replant the tree. And today, Cindy's brother relates that it took hours sometimes to complete that job in the freezing cold. Well, I must add that only once did the father of my children and I do the live Christmas tree thing. Though we purchased our tree already dug and in a container, trying to get that thing back in the ground in 10 below weather cured us of ever attempting the eco consciousness in that way again. So let's now hear some of your more concise anecdotes and memories and traditions in song. Ron, thank you so much for presenting this to us.
Here goes. Grandparents from Denmark made my Christmas special. Tree lights, real candles, and Danish the carols. A bucket of sand made the safe, the dancing. These are a few of my favorite things. Rest from the snow-covered ground that was freezing. The tree that we trimmed just had to be living. 1 6-foot firs now soar 30 feet high. These are a few of my favorite things. Greenery and bright lights festooning a great hall. Candle in one hand that's lit from my neighbors. The darkness aglow with a silent night sing. These are a few of my favorite things. Times are tough now, we're unsure now. Should our cheer run low? Let's simply recall our fave holidays. Then we won't feel so bad. A marriage of Catholic and Jew makes you. Menorah and latkes and cookies and star trees. Our kids, they were raised with the best of both faiths. These are a few of my favorite things. Hula hoops decked out in holiday finery. Movies by Hallmark, the sappier the better. Sandy tree pilgrimage, sand angels a-wing. These are a few of my favorite things. One Christmas we wrapped up a Siamese kitten, placed near the tree for our daughter of 10 years, to find by the sound of its purring and mewling. These are a few of my favorite things. Times are tough now, we're unsure now. Should our cheer run low? Just simply recall our fave holidays, then we won't feel so bad. Hearing Valana, sweet little mop top, and Terrence, her big bro, they call out, hi pop pop. Find harmony in 4 nylon strings. These are a few of my favorite things. That Christmas they asked me to dress up as Santa, playing the claws for my nephews and nephews. Their joy and their wonder set my heart melting. These are a few of my favorite things. To the Messiah we'd reverently listen. The Nutcracker Ballet we'd not miss attending. Cloves would I place on the ham of Dad's scoring. These are a few of my favorite things. Times are tough now, we're unsure now. Should our cheer run low? Let's simply recall our fave holidays, then we won't feel so bad. Each Christmas Eve to Red Lobster we'd venture, my sons in their tweens when Dad started this practice. 'Twas not the fish, but for the biscuits we'd sing. Then they were our favorite things. Each year with my sister, Mom, Dad, me together, our Christmas tree on up the heels of Thanksgiving. Debate would ensue o'er how the garland to string. Watching their antics was my favorite thing. Chilly the weather, I'd don my best sweaters. Round a warm fire, the family would gather. The hugs and the mugs of hot cocoa and snow. These are a few of my favorite things. Times are tough now. Yes, we're unsure now. Should our cheer run low? Let's simply recall our fave holidays. Then we won't feel so bad.
Please give another round of applause to Ron. So talented. Thank you, Ron. So I hope that in that song, maybe you heard some of those quips and anecdotes, and they reminded you of your own. I have, among those submissions, I did get Cindy's story, which resonated, and also I got a really great story from our new member, Linda Prentice, and it was just so good, I have to share it with you. And that will round us up in today's fun antics. So once again, this is from Linda Prentice. I grew up in the west of Scotland around Glasgow. My father came from a large Roman Catholic Irish family, but was supplanted to Glasgow at the turn of the 20th century to labor in the shipyards on the River Clyde. As a child, I remember large family gatherings, usually between Christmas and New Year. These were held at my Aunt Sadie's home, where that was my dad's eldest sister who had taken on the role of family matriarch. These Christmas and New Year gatherings were for all family members, and one of the traditions at these events was that each member of the family was required to do a party piece. This meant that each of us was required to perform in front of the whole family and either sing or tell a joke or do a magic trick or recite a poem. Wow, that'd be tough. My brother and I agreed that this required performance should be avoided at all costs and that we would hide and thus avoid being humiliated. By our reckoning, most of our aunties and uncles would be so drunk as the evening progressed that they wouldn't miss us. We had not, however, factored in Grandpa, old Jimmy, who was a teetotal, meaning he didn't drink, and enjoyed seeing all his descendants perform to his great amusement. So Linda and her brother decided to hide under the drinks and snacks table where there's a tablecloth that went all the way to the floor. And they thought they were so clever because they hid there and they could get the food, right, and eat. But their mistake was that just before they were about to make their escape, they giggled. And all Jimmy figured out where they were. And he brought one of those old-fashioned soda siphons. And he yanked up the tablecloth and he said, "Oot, you two, or I'm going to spray you with this soda water." So they made haste before getting soaked, which would be even further humiliation. And they got up in front of everybody and they sang Edelweiss from The Sound of Music. And she says, as they finished singing, they were the last ones. As they finished singing, there was hardly a dry eye in the room. Mom and Dad hugged each other, and Linda says she looked over to see her grandpa sitting in his chair, surveying the room and all his descendants with a big, satisfied smile. Her auntie Sadie said to her dad, to Linda's dad, "Where have those little monkeys been all evening?" And Grandpa said, "Never mind, Sadie. The best was saved for last." Thank you so much, Linda, for contributing that wonderful story. So you didn't get to hear all of what Judy said, but I remember hearing her say that it's not the stuff that makes us happy, it's the experience, right? Nobody wrote about their new car or gadget or toy. They wrote about experiences. And so I hope that you've enjoyed our attempt at our playful, joyful worship this morning, and that all your warmest holiday memories and traditions lift your spirits, keep them lifted, and open your heart to the hope and joy of this season. May it be so.